Once upon a time when you were still little and running under the table, Cookie and I made a video about what happens if we smoke 300 cigarettes. Times are changing and all sorts of electronic devices are replacing cigarettes. And today we will smoke 100 cigarettes with the help of this popular device and see if it leaves anything on our improvised lungs. This electronic thing heats tobacco, or at least I think so. The point is that the tobacco is not burned as it is heated, therefore there should be no smoke. And now we'll check if that's really the case. These attachments are inserted, which by the way are very similar to ordinary cigarettes. The cigarette is inserted into a special hole and smoked directly from the device. Cookie, don't you want to try it? That's right, smoking is bad for your health. But Marlboro wants to taste tobacco again. No, you can't smoke. Wasn't it enough for you the last time? Stay home, Marlboro. So we click this button and the cigarette starts to heat up. And then the smokers will inhale it all. By the way, it has a bit of smoke, even though they said it was smoke-free smoking. At the end of the video we will try to disassemble this device and see what's inside. When finished, the cigarette has burnt tobacco inside, it's almost black. And it turned out that the cigarette was half empty. We will perform our experiment with the same equipment we used to smoke with Marlboro. But for starters, it needs to be redesigned and improved a bit. We have a hole for standard cigarettes, but these new cigarettes are a little thinner and they have a giant device on them. So we took an ordinary pen and took out this part. Inserted a thin tube into it and placed it in the opening of the flask. On the other side of the hose we cut a piece of the handle. And as it turned out, our cigarette fits perfectly. That's about it. In the last video I noticed that the rubber didn't fit tightly to the walls, which causes air to get inside and the suction efficiency decreases. We solved this with an insulating tape. And now the connection should be more airtight. So let's go outside. I don't want the stink of tobacco at my home. Marlboro, don't even think about it, you're staying home. So now we have to fill the container with cotton wool, which will play the role of our lungs and into which we will let the smoke. We need to do it carefully. Close the lid, and we are ready to run the smoke. Marlboro, what are you doing here? How did you get here? I thought we agreed that you're not going to smoke anymore. You almost died last time. You smoked so much you used the place as a bathroom last time, do you remember that? So go back home. The maximum you are allowed is to sit here and watch. You see, once you start smoking, you can immediately become addicted. You will want more and more cigarettes. So we take one cigarette, insert it, hold the button and the process begins. Almost immediately the pipe changed color due to the smoke passing through it. Yes, there is less than in a cigarette, but it is still there. One cigarette is smoked in about 2 or 3 minutes, and in this heat it seemed like an eternity. Time passed very slowly, especially when it turned out that the battery of this device was only enough for 10 cigarettes. That's a bit sad. We had to borrow a power bank and charge the heater with it so it wouldn't empty so fast, and now everything worked in this composition. Marlboro was willing to take our place for us to rest. But we held on until the last minute. Gradually cotton wool began to turn yellow in various places. Clearly these cigarettes are not safe. Then the thing overheated and refused to continue working. So during a break we went to the shop and bought an umbrella, so that it wouldn't be so hot. It was extremely hot and it took an awful long time. Even a little spider started making a cobweb in the meantime. And after a few hours, we have it, the last cigarette. We gently pull out the cotton wool out of the flask and what do we see here? We see a fairly darkened part of the cotton wool. It turns out that it's not completely safe after all. Of course, it's not as terrible as a real cigarette, but even this is not very wonderful. We put the cotton wool under a microscope and it was clear to see the cigarette remains. Next we look at the tobacco in the heating cigarettes itself. And here it's a bit weird. These are some fibers mixed with brown fabric. I have great doubts that these are leaves of tobacco plants. There probably wouldn't be so many threads in it. For comparison, we took tobacco from a regular cigarette and put it next to it. You see, the difference is very noticeable, so these pieces are more like the natural leaves of a plant. It turns out that there is less smoke and tear in heating cigarettes, but what really is contained in the cigarettes is not clear at all. Now let's disassemble the device and see what's inside. I didn't plan to continue using it, so I wasn't very careful. By the way, the case is made of aluminium. We removed the bottom plug and with it the whole device. Oh my, look at how much there is! We are removing the thick part for cigarettes. It's most likely thermal insulation. And beneath it are coils of thick copper wire. Wow, I seem to know how it works. Here is the induction heating. The current passes through the conductor and the iron tube inside, which the cigarette is heated with, and the copper coil does not even touch it. Surprisingly, the way the heater is made, it's very high quality, and costs more money than they ask for it. But they well know that the most money they will make is on cigarettes. And here's a battery that will come in handy. It's definitely made good for smokers, so they care less about battery and more about the smoking. In general, there's only one conclusion to be made. If you aren't a smoker, then don't start, but if you are, then of course you can try this to help ending it. Maybe temporarily use this option, at least it doesn't seem to be as harmful, and then throw it away. Imagine that every day you can save a ton of money you spend on cigarettes and buy something more useful for yourself and your family. For example, pounds of apples or tasty strawberries that are full of vitamins instead of this smoke.